So this next section is about managing anti-champions. This is our last section, by the way. So this is all about, dealing with the person who doesn't like what you have to say. So I have lots of experience with anti-champions, and a lot of this has some really good perspectives on how to manage this anti-champion. A lot of it depends on who you are and what you're trying to do. So, but in general, it's about, understanding the anti-champion's perspective. So we're assuming, of course, that an anti-champion has the same level of influence and power that the champion has. Because if not, it doesn't really matter. If it's, somebody who just disagrees with you, of course you want to address what the concerns are or whatever it is. But if your champion has enough power within the organization and influence, you don't have to worry about it unless this anti-champion's at the same level and, could potentially, shut down the innovation. So understand the anti-champion's perspective. How is the innovation perceived by this person from the perspective of the anti-champion and within a conditional context? So what are they doing? What are they in the middle of that is looking at this innovation as a threat to them? What is it that this threat is causing them a problem with? What underlying core value is this innovation violating or at odds with? So actively listen to and consider the anti-champion's viewpoint. You have to make sure that this person feels like they've been heard. So whether they're influential or powerful or not, just getting a negative word out about an innovation is going to be a bit of a problem. So you want to make sure that this person is heard, that they feel like they've had their say, and that whether or not their viewpoint goes forward is less important, especially if you are a manager of people trying to put an innovation in place and you've got one person on your team that you manage that doesn't want this thing to take place. So you want to make sure this person gets a chance to say what they have to say. You might have a response for it or not, but you definitely want to make sure they get a chance to have their viewpoint heard. Take advantage of social networks. So understand how much support you have for what it is you're trying to do and whether or not this is a big issue or not. Does this anti-champion have a bunch of people on their side? Is this going to be a huge thing that you're going to have to address, or is it just this one person's viewpoint on how this takes place? If the social management gap is too wide, you need to identify other people that can act as an intermediary. So especially if this anti-champion is at a high level and you are not, you're going to need someone else at their level that can help them understand why this diffusion is important, why this innovation is going to improve the business. And they might even have some insight into this person that you don't have, that they can help to, to just move the innovation forward. A lot of times, and this is something that, from a sales perspective, we always have to think about. We deal with anti-champions all the time, and you have to consider like the person's clubs, professional associations, a way for you to become familiar with the champion or anti-champion, and they can become, familiar with you, that they can learn to trust you, that possibly what you're trying to do is a good thing. And that you change your relationship with this person so that they will hear you instead of having, selective perception and not want anything to do with what you're saying. And locate opinion leaders who are respected by the anti-champion and enlist their help. So again, this is kind of like that Peter Schwartz thing that we talked about earlier in the module. Peter's a hugely respected person. What he says means a lot to a lot of people. And for him to be able to endorse what I was talking about meant a lot for helping that diffusion move through the organization. This strategy, using the counter-attitudinal persuasion techniques, this is really about the fact that you're peers in some way, that this person is going to participate in this like role play with you, that they're willing to be open-minded, and that maybe you are equal in in a group. So perhaps you're managing a group, you've got two people who have two, different opinions on this, and this is your way of helping them to see one another's perspective. So, because this isn't going to work, obviously, if this anti-champion is way above you in in power you know, um, just levels within the organization. They're not just going to jump in and be willing to do a role play with you. But this is really about helping people understand where the other person's coming from, because you need to be able to unearth the underlying issues that are causing this pushback on this innovation. Because if you or the organization really feels like it's a great idea and you're getting this pushback from someone who is obviously looking at it from a completely different perspective, you need to understand what that is so that you can address it and be able to move on. And yeah, so understanding what the values are of that anti-champion and what this innovation is pushing against, right? Where is this incompatibility with where this person's coming from? And trust me, from the perspective of technology, when you're coming into an IT organization with a new piece of technology, you get nothing but anti-champions. These people are very entrenched in what they know and understand. They want nothing to do with something new. It's really all about protecting their turf, protecting their job. And, we talked about that in the status quo bias chapter. These are very deeply ingrained ideas and perspectives that you're not just going to get rid of with a presentation. You must continually communicate with both the factual side of it, so the rider, so that everything you're talking about makes sense, but also that emotional appeal, right? So we're pointing to the destination. How is our organization going to be different and better when this new innovation diffuses through it? Make sure that that elephant is on your side, and that it's very difficult for an anti-champion to say, no, we should just keep it the same way. This new destination isn't going to be better. The more you can, get people in the boat with you, understanding what the new world will look like and how much better it will be with this new innovation, the better off you are. Organizational culture and change. We've kind of talked a little bit about this, but an organizational culture is strong, and when it's strong in open systems and human relations values, it facilitates readiness for change. So when your organization isn't about open innovation, new ideas, creativity, just invention itself, you're going to have a tough time, getting ready for change. And the organization, the more it's ready for change, the more chance you have of success. Because you can even, you can push an innovation through, especially if you're high enough up. If you've got the authority to do it, you can just say, we're doing it. But that doesn't mean that it's going to be successful, because if the culture itself continues to reject it, eventually it's just not going to work, and you're going to have to pull it out. And in some cases, you've spent hundreds of millions of dollars and nothing's working because, the minions have pushed back and you're not getting anywhere. You've got to get ready for change. You have to create an organization that is open and recognizes the value of innovation and change. Higher levels of readiness for change lead to greater employee satisfaction and success in implementation. So, employees, one, they want to feel like they're part of a good change. They're part of moving companies forward. They really, generally speaking, want to do the right thing. It's just a question of making sure you understand and they understand what the actual right thing is. Nobody really thinks they're doing something wrong. Nobody thinks they're a bad person. They understand things in a different perspective, and they need to understand why this is important for the culture and for the organization. So this should be part of your paper. What is your group's culture and readiness for change? What is it that that you're doing, that your organization is doing, that your department is doing, that creates an environment where innovation and change can flourish? And that's it. That's the end of Module 9.